Welcome to this session and to this afternoon. The presentation is on tiers of words and on morphology. My name is Zoi Traga-Philippakos and I'm assistant professor at the University of Tennessee. This work is in these sessions that we present on Tuesdays of second, third, and fourth week of every month. They are part of the LIT series, of the literacy series, organized by the literacy faculty and the literacy specialist program that we offer at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and in the Department of Theory and Practice in Teacher Education. So we have sessions that they appear from, take place from January up to June, and they begin with phonological awareness and phonemic awareness, and they will conclude with writing and reading, writing connections in June. So during this session, I'm going to discuss vocabulary, tiers of words, as well as morphology. So something I would like to share is that, and explain from the very beginning of this session, is that vocabulary knowledge is something that can be acquired much earlier before children learn how to read, before they break the code, before they develop the alphabetic principle. And previous 2 weeks before, we discussed the function and use of dialogic reading, where children become partners in this having a dialogue with the book, asking questions and answering questions that they relate with word meaning. So that supports oral vocabulary, oral language vocabulary. So oral vocabulary at the end of first grade functions as a predictor of comprehension 10 years later. So it is important to support students' oral vocabulary and in general promote students' vocabulary. And one way of doing this is through read alouds. Now, why is this as important? When we are looking at the cognitive model, and this is something that you have seen us all commenting across different sessions, either when we discuss on instruction or when we have discussions and conversations on assessment, or in both, when we're commenting on assessment-driven instruction, we are viewing reading comprehension as the ultimate goal. And one of the components that affects reading comprehension is language comprehension. Within that one, we will have background knowledge of text structures and sentence structures, as well as vocabulary. And this is important when we are considering students' understanding and ability actually to demonstrate knowledge on a content, on specific content, or be able to effectively share that knowledge with others and in writing. So how many words we may be teaching? When we're doing a read alouds, a recommendation is 3 words a day, and it may not seem as significant 3 words a day. However, cumulatively, that can support students' expansion of their lexicon, especially if these words are connected or they're part of a unit where students are building background knowledge and they're building their knowledge base on a specific topic or theme, if I can call it theme. You may be wondering, though, why not use dictionaries? Well, there are 4 characteristics of dictionary definitions, and which may make them more challenging to use when we are thinking of students using just dictionaries. One, they may have a weak differentiation. So it may not be easy to figure out the meaning because it's challenging to differentiate it. Now, the other part may be too vague. So you say typical, and it's being a type, and you may be wondering, a type of what? What type of a type of what? So you see, it's vague language use. They may have more than one interpretations, and then the one that you're intended to use in that text. So devious, straying from the right course, not straightforward, which may mean in this case, it may be interpreted as physically straying from the right course. And you may have multiple pieces of information, like the word exotic. It may mean foreign, strange, but also native, not native. So exotic in this case means different things. So it can be interpreted as meaning different things. So it may be a challenge for the learner to make meaning of this. So you have 4 types of context for word meaning, really, because you may be wondering, well, you'll figure out the meaning of a word within its context. So you may have directive context, where it's easy to figure it out in comparison to something else. And if, for instance, this example, Sue was talkative, but Bill was, and you can understand it means the opposite of what Bill was, because it has that but in there. So it's in one is in opposition to the other. It can be general, where you help categorizing a word, where I will say she had had measles, not mumps, and varicella, where I know it's some type of disease, but I cannot really tell what it does or how it's what are its symptoms, or I cannot really understand its exact effects and meaning. Non-directive, the dress was maybe color in this case, it can be style, because I don't know the meaning of the word. And misdirective, where it can be misleading. So we need to address vocabulary through explicit instruction, and there are 2 characteristics that will make a word appropriate to teach it. One is that you can define it in terms the students know, providing child-friendly definitions. And the students are likely to find this word useful and interesting and use it in other contexts. So we have 3 tiers of words, and according to Becca McCann, we can think of them as 3 levels of words, 3 tiers. So the first tier is basic words, words that you will encounter through everyday communication and discussions, like the word front, surprise, go, lucky. These are tier 1. Tier 2 words are words that they are high frequency, but they will be, you will see them in academic settings. You can see them in print. And these are words that the students may encounter again and again in texts. And the third one is low frequency, because these words may be specific to a content, so specific to social studies or social or science. So I may have the word isotope and molecules, and I will see these words when I'm working in chemistry, for instance. So tier 1, basic, everyday, familiar words. Tier 2, importance, they have and utility, and you will encounter them in several other books, in print, and students may understand the general concept of the word, but not really the exact meaning of the word, and may need clarifications. Now, when you're looking at these words, there are words that they are, as we said, more than just a tier 1, more than just words that you'll encounter in everyday communications and everyday discussions. The word kitchen, for instance, will be a tier 1 word in this context. So other words that will not be in this case tier 1 will be comment, something someone has to say, occurrence, something that's happening, tended, to take care of something, mention, to tell. So these are words that they are like an upgraded version of a tier 1 word. So how do we teach it? You can introduce these targeted words, the words that you have identified. And the question is, when do we introduce these words too? So the tier 3 words, because it's important to understand their content, the context that they are, and it's their content specific words, science, social studies words, then it is important to know their meaning ahead of time. Tier 2 words, we can teach them at the end of a reading, at the end of a read aloud that we will do. And again, I would like to clarify that when I'm talking about teaching words, I do not mean teaching high frequency words. That will be very different from the tiers of words through Becca McCann and the discussion we have today. So how do we teach it? We provide child-friendly definitions, and I'll show you the sequence of how exactly we have the method of teaching words, and we need to encourage future use. So you may include those words in the classroom, and you can have a system of tracking usage for both in oral language communication as well as in writing. So tier 2, likely to be unfamiliar. They will be in written text. They can be found in different domains, such as the word disappear. Tier 1 and tier 2, lucky versus fortunate. Remember, like an upgraded version. And tier 3, frequency is low. However, they're important in understanding content. And an example will be tundra, molecules, genetics, dendrites, synapses. So let's identify some of these tier 2 words. You can read the text or I can read it out loud. Johnny Harrington was a successful wool merchant and his business required that he travel often. In his absence, his servants would tend to the fields and cattle and maintain the upkeep of his mansion. They performed their duties happily, for they felt fortunate to have such a benevolent and trusting master. And in this case, we are selecting the word merchant, required, tend, maintain, perform, fortunate, and benevolent. So the word usual is an example now of how do we use child-friendly definitions versus dictionary definitions. So I have the word usual. In the dictionary, it will be accordant with usage, custom, or habit. And a child-friendly version of this word, child-friendly definition, will be doing something in the same way. So here are the steps of bringing words to life and how do you teach words. So first we say the word and children repeat the word. It's important to make sure that they heard the word correctly, they heard the word right, but also they pronounced the word as it was intended. And then the teacher will provide a child-friendly definition using terms that the child knows. So you will not use a tier 2 word to explain a tier 2 word. If I say that, for example, in the case of the word fortunate, I will say the word that we'll work on today is the word fortunate. What word? Fortunate. Fortunate means lucky, right? So I gave a child-friendly definition of the word fortunate. Then you will say how the word was used in the book, since these are part of the read aloud books and texts that you use. You give examples of the word used in multiple unrelated contexts, so the children will hear the use of the word more than one sentence and more in one syntactic structures. And then I invite them to share examples. And then at the very end, the children will repeat the word. So I'll give you an example. The word is fortunate. What word? Fortunate. Fortunate means lucky. The author said that, and then I'll read what the author said if it was part of the book. I will give you an example. I am very fortunate to have such a good audience that pays attention and takes notes. I have been fortunate to have a wide selection of read alouds to choose from. I am very fortunate. I was fortunate this morning to find a parking spot so that I could park. So these are the examples I gave. And now I'm going to invite you to give me some examples using the word fortunate. So then you will use the word fortunate. And finally, I will say, what was the word we worked on? Fortunate. What word? Fortunate. Now, as we close this part of the session, I will move now to morphology. But before I do this, I would like to clarify the meanings of the morphology when I say morphology. So a morpheme is the smaller unit of sound that carries meaning. So for instance, when I say the word cats, the S, the sound in this case, the S at the very end, the S carries meaning. And it carries meaning because it changes the meaning of the word cat from a singular to plural. So I have cat, one cat, cats, multiple cats. So morphology, and that drawing from the ology, that means the study of, it's a study of the components of words that relate to meaning. So when we work on meaning, we're thinking of prefixes that we have that carry meaning, suffixes that will be at the very end of the word, prefixes, affixes, they are called affixes together. So I have prefixes that will be at the beginning of the word. I have suffixes that will be at the end of the word. Both of them carry meaning. And then I have the base word, which is my root word. So how does this work now when I'm trying to decode words? When we're working with multisyllabic words, the challenge for children, sometimes they may feel they may be stressed and scared and intimidated with larger words. However, if they are able to pay attention to the parts of the words and they are looking at the components that carry meaning, they can both understand the meaning of the word, but also they can decode the word. Because once all these pieces are stripped, you will have the base word, which can be one syllable or it can be more syllables, but then the goal will be to break it, break the syllables and read the word. In this case, I have given a word, and then once I isolate the prefix, I will have the single syllable word zip. So unzip, unzip, undo something in this case. And I can use this in order to decode the word unzip. And then if I have a suffix, then I understand with AD it carries meaning, meaning that it happened before. Unzipped, something that was done before. And then the word zip has the double P because I doubled the P in order to keep the short vowel sound. So in other words, in this case, morphology is important because when you decode the words, not only you can break the words apart, and you can read them more efficiently, more strategically, I would say, but you can also understand the meaning of the word. Unzipped, it's something that I unzipped my jacket, which means that I did it earlier. I took it off. I moved the zipper. Instead of zipping my jacket, I unzipped the jacket. Now, when I'm working now into words, I can have the word fortune and fortunate, and then unfortunate. And this "un" again, it means the opposite of. So that again connects with a student's ability to make meaning and understand words. But also it can support spelling. So in this case, I have the word, this word at the top. So the word pleasant. So the word pleasant, if I were to spell it, I would spell it phonetically. I would spell P-L-E-Z-A-N-T, pleasant. However, I don't spell it in that way. And that's not because English language is a challenging language. It's because this case, the word pleasant derives from please. And as a result, it keeps that part, please, P-L-E-A-S, instead of pleas, as I pronounce it. So that connects with spelling. So it's important for students to know morphology, but also it's important for them for decoding, but also it is important for them to be able to spell words. So as we're viewing at vocabulary, vocabulary connects with meaning making, supports meaning making. It's greatly connected with comprehension. It's something that can begin early, and it can support word meaning, word derivations, and it is important for students to be engaged in developing morphology and morphological awareness so that they can tackle words and identify prefixes and suffixes in order to make meaning and to also provide these words in writing. So I will stop and we will open this into discussion so that I will find out how you teach words in your classroom. If you do utilize tiers of words, if you do use the Beck and McCann of bringing words to life way of teaching tier 2 words and general teaching words, or what the system you use in your classrooms. Before we end, because I know that conversations are easier, that's what I have learned so far when they're not recorded. Before we end, I would like to share that we will have an additional session during April that will address promoting active engagement with vocabulary, and will be shared by Dr. Bramo. The audience for this one, because remember, we are working with different audiences as we are considering purposes as well. They will be parents as well as teachers. So we invite parents and teachers so that they will learn more about how to engage students and how we can promote engagement in reading with vocabulary. If you have any questions or if you need any resources, feel free to contact me. And thank you again. And I will open this now to conversation.